All right, let's just get started. How's everyone doing today? I hope you're enjoying the weather. Finally, the sun is out. All right, so today's meeting is I really wanted to just go over a few things that has happened with other agents, and I want to make sure it doesn't happen to you. So I hope that you guys take some time just to pay attention where I'm going to share. You may not even notice that you may be doing something incorrectly, especially when you're filling out these forms. And I just want to keep reminding you guys that all contracts are binding. So it's very, very important that if you are making any changes, even if it's a small change, even a penny, all parties need to initial and sign. So I want to start off with the contract of sale first, and I have noticed a few errors that's been happening with the contract of sale. So when you are writing an offer, and assuming the listing side is offering a commission to you, you want to make sure that that is written on the contract of sale, but you're also providing the cooperating broker to broker compensation agreement. In the beginning, we thought that form was just like, why are they giving us this form when we have it on the offer? Well, now that document is becoming very, very important, and you should all start using it. And you should not even let your client go in attorney review if you don't have that document signed. That's going to protect your commission. I just recently had, and when I say recently, 3 days ago, an attorney that tried to change one of our agents' commission, and I had to put him in his place because I said, I don't get involved with your fees. You cannot be negotiating a commission. But it would have really helped my case and make it stronger if my agent had the cooperating broker to broker, because things do happen. They do renegotiate terms. And if you're not paying attention, because a lot of times we're like, oh, it's with the attorney, they'll handle everything. I already wrote the offer. Well, you should pay attention because they will go and change your commission. And especially if their client said, oh, I never agreed to this. I didn't know I was paying my broker an extra 1% or 0.5%, or I didn't realize this is how much I'm coming out of pocket. And the attorneys will go and change during on attorney review, and then you will not have an opportunity, or you didn't see the email that they changed your commission, and now you're at the closing table, you're writing your commission. They're like, no, that's not what your commission is. Your commission is been changed to 1%, and you never paid attention to it. If you're on the listing side, you have the listing agreement that protects you. And I'm hoping that you guys all have the buyer agency agreement as well. That's very important. So on the contract of sale, I want to make sure you guys, if you are paying a listing fee, you want to make sure you write on the contract. Or if you're taking a listing fee, you want to make sure the buyer's agent is writing that fee. If they're just writing 2%, 1%, 3%, whatever the fee is, and you didn't have the listing fee on it, don't come to me and be like, oh, Donna, I want my $200 or $250 listing fee. If it's not on the contract of sale, I'm sorry, guys, you're not going to get it. You're not going to receive it. And vice versa. Right now, I'm fighting for one of our agents because the listing agent never told us about the listing fee. And now they're writing the commissions and they're trying to tell me, oh, there's a listing fee. And I said, where in the contract has the listing fee been added? No. So I'm going to fight for that one. And the cooperating broker to broker is that if I call Fran Blakely and I say, Fran, I'm interested, my client is interested in your listing. What is the seller offering a compensation? And she may say, Adona, it's 2% minus 250. I'm going to make sure that I send her an offer with a cooperating broker agreement, because now it's broker to broker. If she committed to saying that my seller's offering 2% minus 250, or even no listing fee at all, I want to make sure that if the attorneys try to change my offer and my commission, I can go back to her and to her broker, right? And say that this is what was agreed upon and this is the expectation. So it's very, very important. You may think like it's not a big deal because you've worked with the other agent for many years and they'll never screw you over. Well, you know what? That's the person that's going to screw you over because it has happened to other agents. So when it comes to your money, it's your paycheck. Do not let another agent change your commission. I just had an agent tell me, "Oh, Donna, I wanted 2.5, and then the other agent wanted to change it to 2.25." You know what the other agent did? They wrote it too. So, and then the agent just trusted her that she wrote the right amount and never double checked her commission. So, it's your money, your paycheck. You should be the one to see what's being written in the contract. If you make any alterations to an offer, let's say you received an offer on your listing and your seller made a change, do not be the one to write that on the contract. If you are going to do that, you have to have all parties initial the change. All parties, not just the agent, not in a text message, not a phone conversation saying, yep, my client is okay. It has to be in writing. I'm gonna just move a little bit on the tenant side because it kind of goes the same thing with the lease. We've had an issue where a tenant wanted part of the utilities to be included. The landlord said no. They wrote it, the listing agent wrote on the lease that it will not be, but they never had the tenant initial it. So now there's a lawsuit because the tenant saying, I didn't agree to pay the utilities. That was supposed to be part of it. And now the listing agent is going to be the one who's liable. So you have to have, it's a contract. You have to have all parties initial. And I'm bringing this up to you because it's so important because I don't want this to happen to you. I don't want you to be in a position where now you have to go back and find traces of evidence to just protect yourself. Any questions, guys? I know a lot of companies are saying that the listing fee is illegal. It is not illegal. As of right now, they have not determined that a listing fee is illegal. The way you're going to enforce that on your listing is if your seller is offering a compensation to the buyer's agent, you can request that a listing fee be paid out. But the only way you can enforce it is if it's on the contract of sale and the broker to broker compensation agreement. All right. That is the only way. It must be on your listing agreement. I've also come across where the agent is writing the listing agreement as just 5%, 5.5%, but they don't write that, oh, the way I'm gonna share it is 2% minus 250 goes to the broker agent. So if you don't write it that way, you're not going to be able to get that fee. The seller has to agree on it. Right now, I'm in a really bad situation where um, an agent did not have it on her listing agreement. And it was also, she's the one who added on the contract that didn't have the buyer's agent sign it. So when she received the offer, it was only 2%. She's like, I'm gonna add my MLS fee. The agent said, yes, I have messages that she said, yeah, no problem, but she never had it initialed. So now they're fighting back saying, we never agreed on it and you altered the contract. So the contract is technically invalid at that point. Let me just mute. I see I hear background noise. Any questions so far?
I did have an agent have the attorney say write a rider inside the rider wrote there will be no extra fees besides the commission, and everybody signed off on it, and of course on the contract they left it out, and they just figured because she had it in the text, hey, there's a 250 and no problem, didn't say anything, but didn't put it on the contract. And so we just couldn't fight it because everybody signed off on it and it's not on the contract.
Yeah, so the broker to broker compensation agreement is very, very, very important. And that's why, like, I think we're gonna change that form to be required on both sides, even on the listing and the buyer. And I'm not trying to give you guys an extra form. I'm just trying to protect you guys to make sure you get compensated what you agreed upon. And I think you guys, I would highly recommend changing the verbiage instead of saying listing fee, change it into a transaction fee, call it a transaction fee, or a technology fee, just so that it's worded differently. So instead of a listing fee, just change it to something else. And when they ask, if the seller tells you, what is this for? Be like, oh, because I wanted to cover portion of my marketing fee, so I'm going to have the buyer's agent pay a portion of it. You're in control when you're on the listing side, right? If you I've seen fees as high as 400. I'm not saying recommend that you charge 400, but we at Remax Select, just remember, we're very flexible. We don't tell you one deal you can charge $50, one deal you can charge 100, 200. We don't care. That money goes back to you. So just, hey, it makes a difference, right? If you have a listing and you're spending five, $600 and you want to charge a $300 fee for the buyer's agent, that's okay. But only if your seller is offering compensation. If they're not offering compensation, you really cannot at that point. It's not right to ask for them to pay you a technology fee or MLS fee.
Idona, to add to that, this is Ezekiel from Fort Lee. Uh,
Hi.
with the buyer's description, I mean, with the seller's disclosure form, yesterday I had a listing agent saying, my buyer had a couple questions regarding it, and it wasn't clear on that form, and she said, "Oh no, let's just let the attorneys amend it." And I told him absolutely not, because I'm not going to trust an attorney for anything. Number one, number two, why let an attorney have to do something when you could do it now and make sure it's perfect? Because later on, it's not going to happen with an attorney. So what I've been practicing is making sure everything is really, really, really on point before it gets to the attorney, because the attorney doesn't care. Let's just be honest here. So that's something that I've been always trying to do. Don't leave it, never ever leave it up to the attorney.
Yeah, I've even heard agents say when they were going back and forth on the MLS fee, they're like, "Oh, let's just let the attorneys deal with an attorney review." The attorney doesn't care about your pay. He does not care. If the party said no, let's just skip it, they're gonna skip it. They're not gonna add it. They're not gonna advocate for you. They don't they don't care. Neither should they, though. It's your money, your paycheck, and the document, the seller disclosure, it falls on the agent. We are the ones that are licensed. We have to make sure that it's fully completed. And since you brought up the seller disclosure, it's very important that you were using the right, correct one. If you're representing a buyer and the other agent has provided you with an old version, do not let your client sign it. It's not good enough. It's invalid. You have to make sure that you're actually reading what's in that. I'm not saying that you have to approve every single line, but you have a responsibility. If it's not filled out, why would you have your client sign something that's not filled out? And
Or
it has
accurate.
the seller's name or accurate. As the listing agent, you do have a bigger responsibility because it is your responsibility to do a walkthrough in that property. If your client checkmarked, I've never had flood, and you go in one of the rooms and you see there is flood damage, you have to bring that to their attention. You're acknowledging that you did a walkthrough in that property. So if you do have a responsibility. A lot of times, look, I don't want you guys to lose listings, but I'd rather you guys lose a listing than your license, because the buyer can sue and they will come back after you and you will be listed as one of the parties in that lawsuit. That's one thing that I wanted to go over with you guys. Just please, please, please do not forget. We're always on the rush. We're driving. The other agent says, "Hey, your offer is accepted, but we need to make this change. Can I make the change?" You have to have it initialed. You want to review it. Even when it all the way till it goes under contract, you should be looking at those emails and reading it. Attorneys used to say, "Oh, Donna, you're a control freak." I am a control freak because I negotiated a deal and I want to make sure that that is how it goes into under contract, because attorneys will try and change it. So let's say you represent Ezekiel. I'm picking on you since you were the last person to speak. If you had a listing and you negotiated a deal for your seller where the buyer agreed to certain things, or they excluded like home inspection when they said only minimum like structural or whatever, even if it's like completely waived, and now during attorney review the buyer's attorney squeezed in some language and says like they'll do a full inspection, it's your responsibility to call that out and be like, no, that's not what we negotiated. Because your seller is going to, the seller expects you to make sure that you have their back. So you have to make sure that they're not trying to change the terms of the contract and offer during attorney review. How many times have you guys seen it where they waive the appraisal and then attorney review, they say, oh, no, we didn't know what waiving an appraisal is, and then they add it back in. And that's not what you negotiated the deal to be. So you have to make sure you stand up. Yes, Mary. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I guess she got somebody in the office. So we do have a responsibility. We're not just real estate agents. We're the advocate for our clients. We have to make sure that we know that what's written in the contract, that's what's gonna happen till the closing date. We can't just hand it on to the attorney and move on to the next deal. We have to be aware of what's being negotiated back and forth, even during home inspections. If you agreed to something with your client, with your seller, and the buyer agreed, you want to make sure that that's how it's gonna work out. Let's see, Fran, I'm gonna put you on.
Yes, yes.
Did I miss anything that we discussed that we wanted to bring to everyone's attention?
No, I think you got it all. And we just can't even stress the importance of all of this because sometimes we forget about our responsibilities and you are advocating for your client and you also have to advocate to protect yourself. This is what's part of it. So you have to follow all of the rules and make sure the forms are executed properly. If you're having an issue with the form, please go to your manager because they should be able to help you work through that. If there, that's another issue that we have had. We've had some forms that were not completed properly where they didn't put the protection period in on the buyer agency agreement. If that customer cancels the agreement with you, then you have no protection period there at all if you don't fill that in. And the other thing I just wanted to mention, Adona, is you just cannot say to your buyer or a buyer, gee, did you sign an agreement with someone else? And they say, oh, no. Okay, let me show you this agreement and let's make sure, because I had a case, you have to do your diligence in exploring whether or not they actually signed that agreement with someone else. It's not as simple. You do have a responsibility according to the Code of Ethics regarding diligence and trying to get to the bottom of that and make sure. And then the next thing you should say to them is, listen, if you did sign an agreement with someone else after you've reviewed the agreement with them in person for the first time, try and do it. You could be held liable to pay a commission. So, I'm trying to protect you with this. If you signed one and you want to work with me, you need to cancel that agreement and then we can move forward. Very important, very important. Not a casual, oh, by the way, did you sign an agreement? Because chances are the other realtor never really explained it to them the way it's supposed to be explained.
And another thing I want to add regarding the buyer agency agreement is, and you guys may be like, oh my God, we go over this a million times for the last year. The reason we bring it up is because you may think like you're doing an okay, but you're missing important step. And thank God, knock on wood, it hasn't happened to you, but it could happen to you. Is they call me and like, Idona, I have a listing and I have so many people who want to come see it. I'm spending so much time writing a buyer agency agreement. Well, I do want to let you know that you are at that point, if you have a listing, your fiduciary duties to your seller, you can show the house to unrepresented buyers. But you know what? If you're showing that to a buyer without a buyer agency agreement, don't be surprised when you get an offer in your listing from another agent who does have a buyer agency agreement. You're not going to be able to get a commission, a referral, any of that. So you are taking a risk. And same thing goes with rentals, because I had an agent said, Idona, I just want to have, I put it on Zillow and I have like 100 people that want to come see it. I don't want to sign 100 agency agreement. Okay, fine. At that point, you have to make it clear, you have the CIS that at that point you represent the owner only. Now, if you show it to 50 people and you get applications from another agent, you're not getting the other half of the commission. At that point, you're only representing the owner or the seller. So If you want to risk it that way and it saves you a little bit of time, fine. But I'm just letting you know that I wouldn't be, your manager wouldn't be able to advocate or fight for you to get the commission. So I want to make sure you guys are aware of that. Protection period, very, very, very important. Right now, we've had some cases where the buyer had said, the agent never explained to me what this means, and they were not aware that they were signing a contract. A buyer agency agreement, it is a contract between you and the client. They have to understand. Don't just send it to them saying, oh, in order for me to show you a house, I just have to tell you that it's 2% or 2.5% commission, but we'll ask the seller to pay, so you're not paying, and sign here. You have to let them know what it means. They have to understand that in the event, let's say you only do it for one property, they have to understand that in the event that they buy this property, and if you have a protection period for 180 days, 365 days, in the event they buy that, end up wanting to buy that property, they're going to owe you the commission. They have to understand that. And in the event they work with another agent who showed them the property or had an agency agreement within that vicinity area that they are looking at, they're going to owe them a commission too. They have to understand that. The right way to cancel a buyer agency agreement in writing, you have to send them a list of properties you have shown them, properties you have written offers, and the protection period. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, in the event this contract is now terminated as of November 4, 2025, in the event you buy any of the properties above, I am protected in the next 180 days. You will owe Remax Select a commission of blank amount. You have to have that in writing, because if we go and file a lawsuit against that client, we need to show them we did that. That's what's on the buyer agency agreement. So you have to do all those steps. Okay. And then we're gonna go on to the good news.
Donna, can I
Yes.
ask you a question real quick on that? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I didn't look into this, but just an idea. I've heard of some people, I don't know if this is the reason behind it, but doing, when they have situations like that, they have a ton of people want to see it. They just hold an open house. And then they have the open house disclosures and all that. Do we get protected like that? Is that a good way to go about it or no?
Not really. You're still not going to be protected. I had an agent right a couple of weeks ago who called me and he said, Adona, my agent did an open house. This buyer walks in and they said that he went through Zillow, he contacted an agent and they said, oh, there's an open house. Go to the open house. And they didn't sign anything. They were like, can we have them sign a buyer agency agreement? I said, yes. But what would happen is if that person had a buyer agency agreement with the other agent, you would not be protected. And now if
But
the
would
client,
they, I mean, but they would have to answer if they're represented or not by another agent on the questionnaire, because I mean, at our open houses, they sign in through the app.
yeah, but you know what buyers do? They will say no just because they're so desperate to buy the house. They will say no just to work with you so you can help them get them the house. So a lot of times they check no, and then you get a call from another agent saying, hey, my client came to your open house and they said that they spoke to you and they assumed that working with you will give them a deal, but here's my agency agreement. And I've been on both sides of it. Now, if you do an open house and you get a bunch of people and they are not working with an agent, but all of a sudden you get an offer from another agent and they have an agency agreement that they just signed, you're at a loss because you didn't get it signed first.
And you just can't assume that doing a private open house, because you have all these people that want to see it, having them sign in and having them say no, that does not entitle you to your compensation. What entitles you to your compensation as a buyer's agent is on that buyer's agency, exclusive buyer agency agreement. Because if there's no amount filled in there, you're not getting anything by law, New Jersey law. There's a question in here. Can you use .loop to sign on site? Yes, you can if you want to, but I think it's just important that everybody really explain that agreement to their buyers. But there might be some other things you want to cover today. So
Yeah, we can definitely do another session for the buyer agency agreement, but I feel like if a client is signing on site, they're not even going to understand what it is. They're just going to assume that you need that form signed in order to see the house. And then they're going to be like, oh, my agent is on vacation. I actually have an agency agreement with them. So I wouldn't even waste my time. A lot of times you guys are driving over an hour. Why would you willing to drive over an hour to show a property and then that person tells you that they already have an agreement signed? Don't waste your time. You are valuable. You know what? There's somebody on this call that I'm not gonna call on, but he said something to me yesterday, and I'm like, you are the CEO of your own company. You are not just a real estate agent. You are not just a door opener. You have to treat yourself as a CEO. Would a CEO waste their time and go and show somebody a property without having the proper protection that you will make sure if you show that property and they like it, you're going to get paid? Don't treat yourself as just an agent, like, oh, it's just part of my job and I have to do this. You have to treat yourself as the CEO, and that's how people will treat you as well. All right. Really quickly, because it's almost 10 o'clock, I wanted to share with you guys, we're doing something very different with our office admins moving forward. Our admins are going to be on Facebook. They're all going to be posting just just listed, just sold, open houses, birthdays, anniversaries, success stories on your behalf. So you will see, hear from our office office admins reaching out to you, asking you for a photo of your listing. We just want to advertise you guys. We've had a lot of success where agents got listings and buyers because they were getting recognitions by their office. Sometimes, like when you just talk about yourself so much, they're like, well, if you're so great, why do you keep just talking about yourself and how successful you are? It comes off better when the office is also advertising you. So we want to do that for you guys. Our admins are going to be there to help you with open houses. If you have an open house and you need flyers printed, you can now rely on your admin. I do want you guys to remember that our admins work for the company. They're not personal admins. So they cannot go beyond what we tell them to do, right? We would love to do that, but we are so large that we can't do it one person and not the other. But we do want to give back. We do appreciate all of you guys for being here with us. So they will be doing that, helping you guys with open houses, like flyers, if you need something printed, scanning, dot loop issues. We're gonna, as far as like, we're gonna help them and train them how to navigate Bold Trail so that they can help you guys at least like tell you where to go to do a flyer, or how to print something out, how to do a CRM, how to do a listing presentation, buyer presentation. It's very, very, very important for you guys. If you're not into social media, it's more important than ever for you to do that. A lot of agents are getting leads from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, blogs, and I want to make sure you guys don't lose an opportunity. KV Core, Bold Trail, if you're not using it, you're losing leads, because let's say in your office there's a listing and somebody goes into Remax, it goes to the listing agent. If the listing agent doesn't accept the lead in 2 hours, it goes to the next person. And if you're not using Bold Trail, you're going to miss that lead. So I want to make sure that you're all up to date. If you need help, please reach out to your office manager to at least get you started with Bold Trail. You should all be using it. It's important, viral, to have a CRM. How are you keeping track? Like, you need to be in front of your clients that you've helped in the past. It shouldn't just be a transactional only and then you move on to the next. Me, I only work with my past client who keeps bringing me business. It's like a family tree. I help one person, I help their coworkers, their wife's side, husband's side, and I build a tree among one person. Why? Because I kept in touch, and I want you guys to do the same thing. So make sure you take advantage. Our admins are going to be there to help you. They should be the first step. If they cannot help you, they'll go to the manager. All right. Before we end the call, is there any questions, any concerns? It doesn't even have to be with anything to do with this that we went over.